City Council of Tuesday, August the 15th. And thank you all for being here and in attendance. I noticed tonight that we have secured a special place in our council chamber for the Star Telegram and the wonderful Miss Liz Campbell over there. So thank you, Liz, for being here. And I'll thank all of you for being out here in the audience as well. That was in the chair. All right. Just a quick update before I kind of turn this over to our city manager. Councilman Sarter is en route. He got called into a very late meeting this afternoon that he could not get out of, so he called me and said he was trying to get here as quickly as he possibly could. So hopefully he gets here, and I have not heard status of Councilman Fisher. So
he's out of town.
He's out of town. Yeah. So. Yeah. All right. So. All right. So again, as we're for those watching and those in the audience, again, what we're here tonight for is to work on approving language that would be on the November 7th ballot. Our bond initiative that we're trying to do for phase next of the Boys Ranch. I think across the board up here, just in a general sense, we think this is a vitally important and a critical element of what we do as a city moving forward, because we need to improve our infrastructure. And clearly, one of the things we can work on is the stuff at the infrastructure at the Boys Ranch, and in turn, and I think the city manager is going to speak to this a little bit, but in turn, as we do these infrastructure improvements and make changes at the Boys Ranch with Phase Next, we have the opportunity to generate more revenue from that opportunity as well. So I think that's a plus for the city as we go forward, but it's also providing, the much needed amenities and services that our residents need, and as well as our guests and people coming into our town. So I think that's the overarching kind of feeling behind that, to kind of complete Phase Next in that sense. So we're going to have a couple of discussions, presentations, and then the council needs to decide on this, approve this language so we can get it on the ballot. I will just say, from my seat here, from the mayor's seat, and I think representing the council, I hope, if we approve this and it gets on the ballot between now and November 7th, our job, staff's job, council's job, everybody's job, is to do the most thorough job we can to educate everyone as to exactly what this is going to do at the Boys Ranch, what the services are, what how many rooms, those yoga room, exercise room, whatever the case may be. We're going to have to break that down into a detail to provide that to our citizens, to everybody, so they understand exactly what we're getting for the money we're spending. So, and I think that's our responsibility, that's our job, and we're going to tackle that as soon as we can get past this meeting and start to put those things together. So with that, I will turn it over to our city manager and let him take off with it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not working? There we go. Again, good evening. As the mayor said, we're here tonight to discuss the ballot language for Phase Next. Not necessarily to get into the various programming aspects or other items related to what might be included in a new facility. Certainly we'll need to come back and clearly flush all of that out with you in the event council chooses to forward this to the ballot tonight. But I'm going to open up here and turn the mic over to Mark Hatchell from Kimley Horn. Council did give us some feedback last week with respect to the master plan that was presented. We heard you. Mark has gone back with his staff and made some minor modifications to the overall plan. I wanted him to share that with you tonight before we get into the specifics of the ballot language, and I'll come back and kind of help frame some of that discussion. But let me turn it over to Mark first.
Thank you. I'll be very brief tonight. I just wanted to let you know that, as the mayor said, this is a work in progress. We're going to continue working diligently with council, staff, and the public to flesh out the details. So the main thing we've done is we've started the architects on now that we have a program, to start working out the details of the new multi-generational center, and they're in progress on that. We have updated our site plan to show a building more representative of what that building would be from a plan standpoint. Also, we heard that we needed to make the tennis center viable for tournaments. We've talked to the USTA and kicked around some ideas, and we now have 9 courts at the northwest corner, which would work great for a tournament that might be part of a larger tournament here in the DFW Mid-Cities area. It's got 8 courts, 2 doubles and 1 championship court that could also be used for lessons when an 8-court tournament's going on. And also we have the opportunity, as we get more into the details, to consider covering some of these courts for more year-round use and shade protection, which I think would be a great thing to do. That's a new trend. We've shown the expanded Boys Ranch splash more clearly. It's still a work in progress as well, but we've actually shown what a larger, better facility might look like: a larger children's pool, an adult lagoon for swimming, a 8-lane lap pool instead of a 6, a real lazy river, and still lots of shade and the things that make Splash special. We've shown a location for the skate park down near the picnic pavilion. It's still a work in progress. We'll work on the details of that too, but we're really just here to let you know we heard you. We're going to continue to work on these items, as the mayor said.
Thank you, Mark. All right, anything else, City Manager?
Yes, if you turn the PowerPoint on. So this, Mayor, Council, this slide should look familiar to you. You saw it in your, during our budget workshop when we presented this. And this is a picture of the city's debt. The black line represents 2018. The blue area represents governmental bond types, the green being water and sewer bonds, and the top color that's orange or brown being stormwater bond types. So we're focused in on the big blue blob in the center of that graph. So again, that is a depiction of our debt as it currently looks today. It also includes the action that Council took last week when we redeemed 2007 bonds, which helped with the situation that we're in. So you'll see in 2019 there's a dramatic drop in our debt load that we have. And so that a little over $4.5 million will be coming off in 2019. So should Council choose tonight to forward the ballot language on to the voters to allow them to make the decision if we're going to ultimately realize these improvements at the Boys Ranch and potentially other places as well, and the voters approve those bonds, and we're issuing now $70 million in bonds. That is our new, a new look at our bond load per se. So again, the black line is still 2018, and you're now seeing a slight rise in 2019 as opposed to the dramatic drop you saw in the earlier slide, which again represented the bonds, $4.5 million of debt coming off of our books. So now we're seeing a slight increase in that first year, and then you see it immediately begin to taper down, and it really gets into more of the trend line that we've been realizing the 8 or 10 years prior to this year. That is our worst case scenario right there. So we're required as part of our ballot language in the resolution to publish an interest rate, and right now it's published at 4.25%. That's high. We're pretty confident we're going to get a lower interest rate than that, but we need to publish what we think is the worst case scenario. So that's going to help our cause. And then in addition to that, we're going to be seeing or realizing revenues with respect to what we might be charging for fees and for service, add a new facility, add a new boys rack for any of the programming that might be there, a new pool, etc. So that's going to help with our bottom line in terms of at least recovering a piece of our costs moving forward as we operate out of a new facility. So again, that is for the most part the worst case scenario in terms of our debt picture. I thought it might be helpful for Council and also for the voters to see, where's the money then going? The taxes that we're collecting through our tax rate, where is that money going? What is it helping us fund as a city? And that's what this graph depicts. It is a graph using the data from our proposed 2017-18 budget, which has set the tax rate at 52 cents. So that's showing you where all of our money is going in terms of the tax rate. So that what that means on an average homeowner in Bedford is $80.67 per month in property tax. You'll note in the bottom left, the green, that's our debt service. $12.18 per month out of that $80 is going to pay for bonds, is going to pay for our debt. You'll notice the other two on the right, fire and police, public safety represents 50% of where a monthly property tax payment is going today. So that is for the lion's share of where our money is going. 50% of it going to fund public safety. You want to add in community services and it gets it closer to 70%. You know, parks, recreation, libraries, etc. So that's where the money is going. 15% being debt service, 50% being other crucial services. Again, should council choose tonight to forward the ballot language to the voters, and it's approved, this is the same chart, except now property taxes have risen from $80.67 to $91.62 per month. So with the new bonds that we must sell, debt service is now up to $17.04. That's again the green bar on the bottom left, and we're up to 18% of that monthly property tax bill. It was 15, it goes up to 18, with police and fire still remaining at 50% of our overall cost, or I should say the allocation of where an individual's property tax is going on any given month. So in other words, the approval of the ballot language in November by the voters is not truly going to change our bottom line drastically. We believe that this is something we can afford if it's a place that council wants to head. If that is ultimately your choice, to move forward, to forward this language to the voters, and to make the improvements at the Boys Ranch and elsewhere, if our voters agree with that concept. I think I'm going to stop there. Turn it back to the mayor, and I think it's up to now the council to have that conversation.
All right, thank you, Brian. And so just for clarification, using the previous chart and then going to this chart, and factoring in the debt component that changes this picture, you're using the worst case scenarios, the higher interest rate, all the things that would be worst case scenarios that would impact the number. So that's one aspect of it.
Mayor, if I might.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. You reminded me of. So we're making some estimates, assuming it's passed by the voters. More than likely, that's going to be a 5-cent increase. We had to make some assumptions on where our appraisals would come in to ultimately get to these numbers. So there are some estimates being made as we try and look at this data. But
Okay. All right, council. So you know the charge before us tonight, and that is, are we ready to approve the language? We've taken numerous steps over the last month or so to talk about the what phase next looked like. We've had Mark Hatchell and his team, poring over different views, different aspects, answering questions, taking us on a tour, doing all sorts of things to try to get us to this point. At our meeting Tuesday night, we seemed to, or prior to that in the budget work session, we said yes, we wanted to move forward with doing this and giving the voters an opportunity to weigh in on what we want to do in terms of making these improvements. So our charge tonight is to approve the specific language that'll be ready for the ballot election on November 7th. As I said in the opening, that does not diminish our responsibility as a staff and as a council to completely and thoroughly as we can educate everybody on the various aspects of what goes into that final product and what we're going to get for the $70 million bond package. Clearly I see tremendous opportunity and potential at the Boys Ranch for revenue generation with things going on if we create these sorts of facilities and these sorts of infrastructure improvements. Just alone talking to the people that have the indoor pool and have the birthday party rooms and all those things, they're like booked a year and a half in advance. They can't keep them booked, and their comment to us was, if we could do it all over, we'd have built many more of those rooms to have that opportunity to raise, to increase the revenue and generate that and provide opportunities for the people coming in from all over to use that facility. So I see potential, I see opportunity. So anybody have any questions? For Rusty, if anybody has questions, hang on a second. Rusty, just to bring you up to speed, we just had a brief overview from Mark, and he's provided some handouts there at your place about some of the changes that they've incorporated based on our conversation at last Tuesday's council meeting. They went as far as to work with the USTA, and they actually have 9 tennis courts on here because one of them's a championship court. So they've addressed how to make that a very functional, useful, and revenue-generating component to the park. They've added some other things we talked about. They've fine-tuned what the building space would look like, not in terms of what services are in there, but just the footprint. And he just did a real brief overview of those components. Brian has recently just gone over what the impact would be. Currently, based on what we're trying to do tax-wise, we all pay about $80 and change a month. If we add this in, again, factoring in all of the maximum requirement, like interest rates and those things that may not be real, but we have to use those, it goes up another $11 basically, which will be the second slide. Show them the second slide, somebody. So it goes up to 91 doing that. Still with police and fire being 50% of what our budget supports. So where we're at this point is I'm trying to generate and see if there's any questions from council of staff, because our charge is to approve this language so we can get it on the ballot. And then as I didn't share this part with you, Rusty, but what I said at the opening was the staff and the council, our responsibility is to thoroughly educate and inform everybody about exactly what's going to be in this facility on these grounds and what we're going to get for $70 million. Between now and November 7th, we have to do that. And their staff's working on that piece, but we're trying to put all that together. And we are going to, we'll ultimately have a work session. Council will have a work session to try to drill that down from our end, tell them exactly what we want in there so we can start sharing that with everybody and communicating on the website and Facebook and those kinds of things. So that's kind of where we're at this point. I do have 2 speakers. So Rusty, I just want to say all that to give you a minute to kind of get caught up. I know you had some questions, and Councilman Boyders first.
Thank you, Mayor. I apologize, my voice is a little raspy tonight. March 28th, council first sat down and thought through approving Kimley Horn to start working on this project. I've been away for a few years. I didn't know that we had, when I was on council before, I know that we had pretty much approved a master parks plan for the Boys Ranch, and there was extensive citizen involvement in that plan. That was a process in which a number of citizen stakeholders participated in it and helped craft what was ultimately decided upon, which was 4 phases over X number of years. At the time, me being a young council person and fledgling council person, it was an interesting experience because I got to participate in that and I got to have input in where some of that went. But March 28th, the world changed with respect to the Boys Ranch. From the very beginning, my concern was that we are rushing this project. And all along, from the very beginning, I know that we had a facility tour back in May 30th. And when we had that tour, we sat down in a conference room afterwards. And I'm the one person, and I'm going to vent a little bit here. I'm the one person who spoke up and said, why in the hell are we rushing this thing? And I look like I was hung out to dry when I asked that question. And I'm frustrated that from the very beginning I keep asking the question, why are we rushing? And To be honest with you, this whole process to me has felt like I've had a gun to my head to move on this thing because we've got to get it in a November bond. And I sit here today and I love aspects of this project. I love it. But I hate it that I'm being pressed to have to do something in November, and I'm absolutely thoroughly frustrated with it, even today as we're about to vote on this thing. I'm concerned that we only have one chance to get this right. $70 million is a lot to swallow. I need to have absolute confidence that we are going to have a product that we can sell to the voter, that the voter is going to understand what is in it, what they're going to get for their money, for their extra $131 a year. I need absolute confidence that we're going to have a product that we can market in that fashion before I can vote on this. I'm just being honest. I sat here last week and we had some discussion on council, and I still have a sense of directives that I'm living by. And my wish for this town is still the same. My wish for this town is that we stop thinking small and that we start thinking big. We've just gone through a month's worth of budget meetings and special work sessions and whatnot to where we've talked about the financial condition of this town. And it's not fantastic. We sit here today that we are, with respect to our budget, with respect to our financial soundness that we have in this town, we are a product of budget decisions made in the past. And unfortunately, it's hard to overlook the impact of a $70 million bond on our budgetary obligations going forward. And some of my issues that I need answers to tonight before I can vote on this is, I need to answer questions with respect to what is it going to cost our budget going forward, separate of the bonds. Because we know we're not going to get 100% cost recovery on this thing. So what is the additional impact on our budget? You know, how many more people are we going to have to bring into the fold as a city? How much more resources do we have to put into this thing? I am flat out at a fork in the road trying to get direction in my mind about what I want to do with this. I still believe we are capable of great things in this town, that we need bold decisions to dream and to think about where we want to take this town for the future and the type of people we want living in this town. But I'm not comfortable in approving something that the residents don't know what they're getting for their $131 a year. When I have residents that are calling me who've lived in this town for 20 or 30 years, who know way more about the city of Bedford than I ever hoped to know about this town, but when I have them calling me wondering, what are you guys about to approve? I go into my spiel about, here's the opportunity ahead of us, but I can't tell you, I don't know what this thing looks, I don't know what the activity center looks like. I don't know if there's one basketball court or 5. I don't know what the indoor aquatics looks like. I don't know how much they're going to charge to join. And those are questions to me that keeps coming back to my very original premise, which is, damn it, we're rushing this thing. And I'm absolutely frustrated. I am thrilled with a lot of what I see here, a vast majority of what I see here, but I still have questions about details that I'm concerned that because we are rushing, we are overlooking things, and that we are operating out of our heart and not out of our mind. So with that said, I have a few questions. I'll start with you, Mark, if you don't mind. And I apologize, council. I'm absolutely wrestling with what to do with this decision, and I really need to hear some things to get the confidence to go forward.
I'll do the best I can, and anything I can't answer,
You're the man, Mark. You have never withered from any question I've had to you, no matter whether I had a smile on my face or I look like I was Clint Eastwood and wanting you to get off my lawn.
Okay,
So
I'll do my best. All right.
the very fundamental question is, what are we approving? We know from this design, we're looking at something along those lines, with X number of tennis courts, X number of baseball courts. Is that subject to change?
Yes.
Okay. What conditions would change that?
What conditions would change it is have started, Mr. Boyder, a detailed plan and layout of the new multi-generational facility, and I'm calling it now because it's always been our senior/activity center, but they're coming together. So our architect is working on that as we speak. We're going to sit down with city staff this Friday to talk about how we get that plan out and start a detailed process. We're hoping to perhaps go to the first park board meeting in September so that plan can be unveiled and shown so the public can see it. Also what it's going to look like in detail on the outside. And so if there's a mystery on the plan, in my opinion, that is the one that's probably still there. And so it's it's a detailed process. We needed to know basically the scope, which you guys have given us, which we appreciate. And with that, we can unfold that plan and show it to the public in early September.
Do you, subject to change, I understand that. We have in front of us some numbers which come to 70 million. It's indoor and outdoor. And then we also have numbers that talk about the square footage of the property. So are we tonight committing to a 76,000 square foot multi-generational center, activity center?
That's what we're discussing. It still needs to be flushed out and put on the table. There may be some trade-offs in the final planning process with direction from you and staff and comments we get from the public. For example, you mentioned how many basketball courts. There's always trade-offs. So, we expect to have at least 2, but there could be more. The banquet hall has been a question mark, pro and con. The size of that can still fluctuate depending on how we want to allocate those funds. So what we've been trying to do is set up a budget that we could work within. We don't want to spend it if we don't need to, but a budget that would see us through this process as we make it the very best multi-generational center, the very best park we possibly can. So as you can see tonight, we've listened to you on the tennis facility. We've also fleshed out what the splash might look like. We have got a placeholder for a skate park, which we need to detail out. And our thought process is to have those things in detail to show at this park board meeting in early September. The other thing we're doing, we started, is doing a 3D visualization of what the facility would look like, so you'll be able to understand clearly and see the activities, see what the facility would look like from a bird's eye view as you fly around the facility.
How do you, well, let's dial in on that a little bit. You're working on the 3D image, which is essentially going to be something of a flyover of what the Boys Ranch will look like.
It'll be an animated image with video.
It won't be an indoor fly-in look, it will be a flyover, correct?
It'll be a flyover, but we'll have the plan, and as we develop the plans of the activity center, actually it will be possible to view it from the inside like you would see on a home show or something.
So we're going to hook up with Jeff Gibson and get the drones moving and all that. So let me go to the general. What are we going to have available to promote to the residents about what they're getting with this bond?
We're going to have a once again updated version of this plan as we flesh out the skate park. We're going to have a floor plan and elevations of the new multi-generational center. We're going to have this video fly-through. We have an example that we've given to staff. I don't know that you guys have had time or a chance to see that yet, but I think if you could view that video, it's of a project we planned in Gilbert, Arizona. It's I think it gives you a really good feel of what that park is going to look like and be like, and I think it's the very best tool we could field to help you and the community understand the project as they go to vote on it.
Do you know right now what the activity center is going to look like design-wise? Is it going to be a box with 4 walls? Is it going to be an egg? Is it going to be a triangle? I mean, what is it?
Okay, so if you look at the example I have there, it's not going to be a box. We had a box as a placeholder. It will have 2 levels. There'll be an upstairs and a downstairs. It will have irregular.
Okay, this is what I want to hear, Mark. I want to
Yeah.
hear stuff that we hadn't talked about before.
Okay. So it will have, it will not be a pure rectangle. It may even have some angled walls as the architect developed its concept. He's working on that right now. The idea is to make it very attractive, to make it blend in with the rest of the improvements and set a new standard, building off the good things done before at the park and at the library, and to really be a showpiece on that corner of Harwood and Forest Ridge. So,
Okay, is there going to be anything unique in this activity center than from anyone else's activity center around us?
They're all a little bit different, and Stephen's not here tonight to talk to you, but it needs to be tailored to Bedford. If that means, you know, a different size of banquet facility, if even a banquet facility, if it means having an upstairs gallery place so you can look over the park when there's activities in the park. I think there's many things that we can do to make it special, and I do think it's important, as you alluded to, you know, we're not trying to replicate Hearst or Euless or North Richland Hills even. I think from a quality standard and from some of the durability and the good things about the NRH Center, we want to, in our mind, it has to be that quality or equal, but tailored to Bedford's needs. So,
Do you believe, I'm asking you from your side of the podium, do you believe with what you're going to be able to give us in a presentation, in appearance standards, whatever, in a usage standard, do you believe that what you're going to put in front of us will draw people to Bedford who don't come here now?
absolutely, there's no point in doing it if we don't do it. I've tried to bring on what I think is the best recreation center architect in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They've done many of the leading facilities, Tom Muhlenbeck, Keller Point, North Richland Hills, and they're going to lead that process. And one of the things I talked to Stephen with Brinkley Sargent Wigington about this today is, and also spoke with the folks over at North Richland Hills, but one of the things I really liked about working with them is that they listened through, the public process. They listened to staff, and as great ideas came up, they modified the plans to take advantage of those opportunities. And actually heard that from one of the staffers who worked on it at North Richland Hills yesterday. So it's, this is a big project. We are going fast, but and if you remember, I was talking about 2 years for the first outdoor improvements, 3 years for the rec center. They and we want to give it the time to make it everything it can be. And we've tried to allocate a budget that'll give us room to work. If we can save money, we will. If we need to spend money to take advantage of opportunities, we tried to set that kind of budget for the project.
Is there a scenario that while we go through assuming, big assumption, let's say we approve it for $70 million, the bond gets approved. Is there a scenario as you're doing your diligence that we do not do something that's listed on here and we don't spend $70 million? Or is it, if we say 70 million, we're going to find a way to spend 70 million?
No, that's never the goal, but costs have been escalating. We didn't want to set a budget where we're going to have to start cutting to begin with, and so our intent is to get everything that's needed and wanted through this final planning process in this project. I mean, we view this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Bedford to do it right and do it well. And you know, there are lots of details to flesh out, but we've got a good team to do that. And so I don't anticipate any major changes to this basic concept. It's just all the you know, little details, you know, and then those final programming of spaces, which should be laid out for everyone to see and started on, although there'll be some tweaks to it, you know, prior to the election.
In the surveys that we had and in the educational meetings that we had, the little town hall meetings that we had, did you hear anything in any of these discussions that led you to change something in the design?
Yes.
What?
Well, we heard loud and clear that arts were very important in Bedford, and we also heard support for outdoor and indoor aquatics. We heard that. We heard support from, you know, others who want to have gym space. They want to have.
But we had discussed that as a council back in June.
Yeah, but all those things we heard, and you know, we've heard ideas about doing larger indoor facilities. We heard an idea about doing a parking garage, but we've listened to the things that we thought could be accommodated within this budget. The things that seemed reasonable, and it's our whole intent to give you the very best project we can at all levels. So
without a doubt, and y'all have always done quality work for us. When we talk about cost recovery, between now and whatever point in time, how do you go about the business of developing a cost recovery model based on the parameters of what we gave you? We said starting at 60, or did we say 65?
60.
We said 60 last week. How do you go about building that model with that baseline?
With a detailed plan, with the layout of the center, staffing assumptions can be made using real data on cost of utilities and how you pay for those. That'll be factored into the detailed financial analysis that Councilman Hunsaker will do for us. And they can wade down in the weeds with you on that as we bring it forward. The big political decision always in these plans is once we have all that data based on the plan, is what is a good, fair price for the public, and that's always a political decision.
Let me ask you this before we go off in that direction. So if we're talking about a cost recovery model, you're talking about utility expenses and things of that nature.
Right.
Is manpower a part of that cost recovery model?
Yes.
Okay.
Staffing, manpower.
My concern to come back to in a minute for Brian, just for us to think out loud, you know, my concerns are, you know, how much more are we going to add to our burden budget-wise? You're not going to be able to answer this question. I'm just saying it because I'm thinking out loud. You know, as you develop that model, we're going to need to know manpower numbers. You know, how many people are we going to have to bring on to man a larger facility that we didn't have before?
That will be included.
In addition, so you will be able to provide all that
Yes.
as well? Okay.
Yes, and we'll work with staff on that, but
will you be able to provide that before November, or is that an after November thing?
Well, we've already started, and there's been a number of similar studies done for other communities, and this exercise is typically done on a large, you know, multi-generational center. It's typically done on aquatic facilities, and so we have also very good experience. And we, you know, I think we prepared the slide. I think we said a range of 60 to 70%. Is that right, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
And it could be more, you know, depending on fee structure, but that's being very conservative. You know, we don't. If it's worse, if it's different, let me put it this way: it's usually better, because we're not trying to sell you on a certain number. We're not a developer coming in. You know, we want to give you as accurate a depiction of what that is that we can, and so we use real numbers.
Will you have data with respect to, we know X number, I mean, Eric will be able to testify to this, but I don't want him to. We have data now that says X number of people use the BRAC right now. You will have forecasting data available to us say we anticipate this number of people will begin to use this facility after that?
Yes, and we'll be conservative. We're not saying that you're going to draw people from 100 miles out. We're going to say, based on the market, based on the other facilities, what's unique about this one, what your population and age groups are, and this level of pricing. Typically, we'll come back to you when you're discussing pricing and give you maybe a low, medium, and high pricing so that you can evaluate and decide what's best and fair for the community.
Okay, as you develop that cost recovery model, are you going to go out and do diligence with respect to we need volleyball classes or a volleyball group here that pays X number of dollars a month or X number of what? I mean,
Yeah, we've
are you
come
going to go do diligence with respect to what is going to be utilizing this facility and what those revenue sources are going to be?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Is it going to be the same thing that Hearst and Euless and Colleyville does, or are we going to have anything unique that we are going to have here that others do not have?
Honestly, we always try to come up with something different, and we did that even back to the days of Splash, because there
Because
was...
pickleball is clearly big at North Richland Hill.
I am glad you mentioned pickleball.
No.
I actually got a layout of a 6-court outdoor pickleball today, so we could think about pickleball. And so there's
we're gonna have a city council
we
pickleball
have to-
tournament.
We have to create some flexibility in the plan, because some things are trends, some things
So-
come and they stay.
So that data, that diligence will be after November, correct?
We are working on it right
No,
now.
before November.
It'll be
Yeah,
before November.
yeah, it'll be before, yes.
Yeah, 'cause we gotta
I mean,
share.
we're doing everything we can to vet out ideas
All right.
and bring them forward as we get this before the voters and
Okay.
before you guys.
I guess, I was just going to add a comment before you keep going, but, you know, I've had numerous volleyball leagues and teams.
Yeah.
You know, competitive teams, you know, traveling teams that want to use the boys' range, who want to come here and practice. And it's always a struggle to get court time in our
Yeah.
current setup. So you asking the question.
Which is what I want to hear. I
You
mean, I
asking the
want to
question of
hear
what-
that
that's an-
tomorrow is going to be different than today.
Well, that's an organic thing. Once we start to do that, it's going to happen. You know,
Well,
we
I
get people
mean,
asking us now.
I understand the mantra of if you build it, they will come, but I
didn't
guess
say
I'm
that. I
still.
said it's
No, I
organic.
don't
You
believe
didn't
in
say
that.
it. You didn't say it.
I didn't say that. I said
You
it's
didn't say it,
organic.
but to me, it really comes back to, and this is the juxtaposition that I'm in, is that I believe in this. But I'm concerned about our ability to market this thing, and I'm concerned that it needs to be unique to Bedford, it needs to be special to Bedford, and that I want, if we're going to go out and do this, and do it on a big scale, I want that uniqueness, I want that specialness, but I also want us to be darn sure we can promote this thing for that purpose, for that cause. I hate the thought that we will promote something that's not easily identifiable to the public as potentially belonging to them, that they are going to love, and that they're going to tell their friends and family about, you need to move to Bedford because we got a great boys ranch and we got great facilities. I mean, that's my goal for the whole thing, not just the boys ranch, the whole thing. So I mean, as we've been having this discussions, we've been getting down the weeds, and I'm part of the problem with getting down the weeds, but it's because I'm so frustrated that we've moved so fast on this thing that I don't want to overlook opportunities, and I don't want to overlook things so that 2 years from now we say, oh, we should have done this.
Well, there is flexibility in this plan as we go through the meetings of September, get some more information out. We plan to have this visualization done in early September. I think that will really help the understanding of everyone of what the facility is going to look like and what it's going to include and what it's going to feel like. And so
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
Yeah.
do you have any concept of what the revenues will be for this activity center when it's done? Any ballpark of amount or anything?
You know, I didn't bring the number that we're looking at. We do have backup numbers that are showing initial estimated cost and initial estimated revenues, and that's how the 60 to 70% was derived. You know, NRH's the goal was much higher, and we tempered that back for Bedford because we knew it was going to be different. And we
See,
knew
North
that the
Richland
community's
Hills,
different
I mean,
demographic.
they've got a great cost
Yeah.
recovery number, and they got 2.6 million in expenses. 2.4 million in revenues, which that's fantastic.
Yeah,
But Grapevine was much more extreme. Grapevine had 3 million in expenses and 2 million in revenues.
yeah.
That terrifies me.
Well, we are not recommending that road. They have a very low fee structure, and
Well, unfortunately, the 3 million expenses, 2 million revenues is
yeah.
66%.
Yeah, yeah. We, that is not our goal whatsoever. I don't think, that's, once again, a political decision, but one of the things that I think hurt Grapevine is it's an add-on facility. When you design one from scratch, you can get the control desk, you can minimize staffing, you can minimize, shared use spaces. And Hearst has been added on to about 7 times over the years. They're looking at doing a totally new center of some sort. So Euless has been added on to. There's some good things about Euless, the way it functions for the seniors. I was really involved in that process. So we may do better than 70%, but we're trying to give you a worst case scenario. And I really think it's going to end up being around 70 or so, but it really depends on pricing. So.
Okay, I've actually gone through quite a bit of these questions already.
Okay. I'm counting, it's like 9 pages.
Thank you, Mark.
there. I didn't know if we're gonna
Brian,
get
do you
that far.
mind?
He has another question. He has a
Okay.
comment, but
All right, all right.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I just wanted to share that our intention is to come back shortly, assuming this is approved tonight, and forward to the voters. Our intention is to come back at a work session to talk specifics around a public information campaign. How do we want to communicate this? We fully understand the concern that the voters need to understand what they're being asked to vote on. And so we will come back. Hopefully we can have that flyover completed before then, so you can actually see what that is and how it will help promote promote what they're being asked to approve. Promote's the wrong word, but at least show them what what will happen if it is approved.
Thank you for that, because we absolutely need to do that. I just, it terrified me when I had a really good friend of mine call me and say, I don't know what the heck you guys are approving. And he knows where every body is buried in this town, and he calls me not knowing what we're approving. I mean, it is scary to think that we have well-educated residents in this town who do not know what is the activity center going to be, what's going to be in it, those things. So I'm really dwelling on the marketing of this thing, that I'm not going to get comfortable with this until I feel like we've got control of how we're going to market this thing, and we're going to make this happen. Part of it's historical. I don't know that we've done a great job in the past. That's before your tenure here. So I'm really looking for certainties there that you're going to help us roll out something to go do this, and that my biggest thing is that I do want to move away from the past. I do want to challenge us to make Bedford a unique destination, a place that people want to move to. Not just because we're right at 183 and 121, but I want them to move here because quality of life is exceptional, because there's a great entertainment scene, or that there's a great environment to raise a family, and this is an opportunity to do that. So I do want to go there, but I hate the thought that if we don't roll out something that educates the educated, that we are dooming ourselves to failure. I mean, that's my real concern here. So I'm encouraged that we're going to have that sit down to do that. There's a short period of time to do this, too. There's a real short period.
Mr. Boyer, we're thoroughly committed to doing that, and then we've been thinking about that for a while. And sorry we're not there yet, but we've talked to
There's something
staff.
in the water in Bedford, and it's just not a walkover to do these things. So I want to defer to the others and let you get your breath before I.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Yeah.
really. Pause. All right. Thank you, Councilman Boyer. Councilwoman Sable.
Hi, Mark.
Hello.
Well, I'm so glad that Michael Boyer joined me in my nervousness about this. I've been expressing it to Mr. Bosshart for a while. You've got a timeline, I assume, set up clear through November. Like you said, early September, this will take place, this will take place. So before we go to the polls, there would be an actual picture of what our structures will all look like.
Yes.
I noticed there's no mention at all, and not surprisingly, because August 8th was the time that we spoke about possibly adding an event or performance hall. So there's nothing about that. And that was pretty much promised at the last meeting. So if you were to have to design that and bring back to us and have approved, how long are we looking there?
Well, right now, everything we're doing is on the Boys Ranch site, and it always has been. So I know the idea's been kicked around about doing a separate performance hall, perhaps at Bedford Commons or somewhere else. We got quite a bit of pushback on having a combination banquet/performance hall, because that kind of performance hall doesn't really work for a group like Onstage. And we get that, and we understand it, and our architect gets it. So we wanted to be sure that we didn't displace or disrupt Onstage. And at this time, so we're not really envisioning a performance hall being inside the new multi-generational facility. We think it should probably be a separate facility. We talked about the idea of allocating part of the funds for that, which is possible, whether it's matching funds available for someone who wants to donate, or to keep the Onstage going and renovate that facility. You know, right now, as we finish up the detailing of the facility, a performance hall could be included, but we can't do everything in there. And I don't think that Onstage would really be happy with that facility, honestly, Mrs. Sable, because I think that they have a very unique and you know, dedicated organization that loves their independence, and that's how they excel at what they do. So,
My concern with that is that it was somewhat promised to them, and that feature, because of the true attraction to our city, like it's a sales tax getter, that was one of the things that sold me on the 70 million. But when I look at this, I'm thinking perhaps the 70 million will just stay in the park. And I would say that is probably a deep concern of the arts people. And there's not anything been said tonight that said that you're going to put aside 20 million here or 10 million here. And again, it's kind of been erased from the plan. So that's a concern of mine.
May I interject? So I'm recalling our conversation last Tuesday, council conversation, meeting conversation. We thoroughly vetted the whole idea of how important the arts and all of those things you've mentioned need to be included, and that's why the general consensus up here was that we needed to go for the 70 million, so we have opportunities to do that. There are savings, when you look at the line item things that Mark had provided, there are savings that we could utilize and put that in there. If you look at the actual language that we're going to approve, it says multi-purpose events facility improvement. So there's a multitude of things that can be done in that language. So, you know, for you to sit up here tonight and say that we don't have that included, that's not completely correct, because it is included. We talked about that at length last Tuesday, and that was our whole theory about going forward with this, was to do it that way.
But it's not included if you want to talk about a plan or anything. There's no building, there's nothing. It's just an ethereal idea that it could happen. And to me, it's too fast. I'm just going to say it right out loud. It's too fast. I want this really bad, but there's just too many variables for me. And I'd like to know, is there a budget for marketing this and doing designing and planning? Do we actually have a set amount of money that we're going to pay to do this?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Sable, we have no budget currently for design of the facility itself. That would come from the actual sale of the bonds. That will happen after, should the voters approve the measure.
See, that's what I thought.
We will have a concept, we will have a conceptual design that Mark is talking about, but he is not going to be fully, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but he's not going to be completely designing a new multi-generational facility. That would happen after a successful election.
No, but to clarify, in our fee for this work is the programming, is the plan view, is the look of what it would look like. So not detailed construction documents, not bidding, not construction administration, which we wouldn't want to do or you wouldn't want to spend the money on until you know if it's a go. We do have funds to flesh out what the multi-generational center looks like, and so that's going to be happening here over the next few weeks. Also, the visualization of the park will be complete, and then just so you know that we are committed and to the arts and addressing the performance issue, we suggested, and I think it came up in the last meeting if I'm not mistaken, that if you craft your language in such a way where you can include the performing arts and the creative arts in this bond election, then that gives us all time to vet locations at the Commons next to the old Bedford School. It gives us time to decide if we do want to incorporate it into the multi-generational center or if we want to set aside funds to keep those facilities going, and they are dated and they do have code issues where they're at because they are so important. So we have not suggested not to do that. We were excited when you talked about crafting the language in such a way to leave that included, and we've tried to set the budget so that you have some flexibility in it with the contingencies and the other items. So, we ultimately will have to live within the budget that's set, but there's absolutely no problem, with carving out part of that. And that's also when we reduce the size of the multi-generational center from 80,000 square feet to 76,000 square feet. So perhaps that extra 4,000 square foot of budget could be allocated to a performance hall, wherever it might be.
But this is what is disturbing to me. It's could be, maybe. We're getting all these words that just aren't really confident. And I get why this is written loosely. I do, and it makes sense to me. But to me, either one or the other needs to be really clear. Like you've either got to exactly say what you're going to do building-wise, what you're going to do park-wise, and flush it out and let everybody in the city know, or you've got to make the verbiage be tight, because otherwise, the way it's written now, you wouldn't even have to build anything in Bedford, the way it's written. I mean, it's really loose. Really loosely written.
Well, that's totally up to you guys.
I
We
know,
didn't craft
I know.
the language.
But do you see what I'm getting at? The problem is that for me, if we don't have a budget to market it, where do we go?
Well, we
Can I
Yeah, go
again,
ahead, Mr. Mayor. Yeah.
I just want to, can I rephrase it, what you're saying? I mean,
Yeah.
you've covered this 2 or 3 times with Mr. Boyd's questions and now with Ms. Sable's questions. I mean, the current contract we have with your company
Yeah.
includes all of these things that you've already fleshed out, how you're building the flyover, how you're building the visual aids, everything that we're going to do to promote and provide the information to the voters as to exactly what's going to be there. To the point you said, you're not going to have construction documents and design documents, but you're going to have it all the way to a conceptual look of what this facility is going to look like, what the parkland is going to look like in terms of tennis courts and those things. You can do all that up to this point, which we already have a contract for you. So to keep saying we don't have a marketing budget is a little bit misleading in the context that we're working with you today to put all this together so we can inform everybody exactly what we're going to do.
Yeah, but the 3D visualization was not included in our original contract, but I think it's vitally important because we've heard over and over again, we've got to see what it looks like. And so we have some budget from another contract that we proposed utilizing to help pay for that. We have used part of our fee to help pay for that. And we've talked to staff about that, and I think they're going to bring that forward to you guys. Well, we've already started work on it because we have to get it done so you can see it and the public can see it. So I think, I mean, the multi-generational center will be fleshed out from a planned program and what it looks like. We need to have some more conversations, and we're totally committed to allocating part of that budget to performance arts. It's just, how does that how does that best serve the people that you have? And there needs to be some more work done on that. If there's 5 million allocated, 10 million allocated, I think that 10 million would be tough, but that can keep those facilities going. It can be coupled with other funds. It can be used to add on to the Old Bedford School. So we're not proposing to try to make it fuzzy. We want to do all these things and help you. So.
And I agree. I think that, I don't know why November. I think May, really, because I am a little concerned that I want this to be done right. And to do it right means that all of us need to know what's going on before, if we're going to put it on the ballot, to me it seems like we as council should know exactly what it is. And I don't feel we'd have that. That's just my worry. That's just my worry. But I appreciate it, Mark.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Sable. Councilmember Gebhardt.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark, I don't have any questions for you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just going to make a statement. So first I want to make sure I'm not in the twilight zone. I got a lecture last time about thinking bold. I just want to make sure I'm in the same place, same people. My opinion hasn't changed. I think that giving I'm encouraged to hear that there's some apprehension maybe about the speed of this, which I would agree. Given our financial situation, I think it's imprudent for us to promote such a large capital expense that is optional at this time. Nobody here, and I'll be very clear, nobody here is saying we should never improve our parks, we should never have new facilities. That's not what anybody's saying. And I believe that this is a great plan. I would be excited for new facilities. That's not my issue with how this process is going moving forward. I also don't think that it's necessarily bold or big or great thinking to just spend money and have a modern facility. Everybody likes new things. That's great. I've heard it represented that having this type of facility will bring a certain demographic into the city. Young families will come if we make this, but isn't it also just as likely if we put a new senior center in, we're going to get a lot more seniors? I mean, somebody tell me that couldn't happen. They can't. We don't know. We're guessing about what might happen because of this facility. Again, it's great to have new things, but we have to consider very near-term projects that are more required, more a necessity than a new center at the park. We have the Hardwood Road expansion that's coming up. That's going to be a large capital expense, and also I think a much better opportunity to reinvigorate businesses along the Hardwood corridor. Having a much more navigable throughway through our city, I think is going to be much more appealing for businesses than a park. I don't see how you can make that argument that this would be better than the other. We have ongoing disbursements for SWIFT funding that we've committed to. Again, necessary, vital capital improvements for the infrastructure of our city to make sure we deliver water, provide sewer for all of our residents. Again, more necessary capital expenses, more debt. Showing our debt falling off and then we have to fill it up with new debt, kind of like, oh Lord, we don't have debt, quick, get more debt to make sure our debt line stays real high. But, if we're going to think bold, how about let's be the city in Texas that has the least public debt ever. That's bold thinking. Why not have that funds available for us to sponsor, or not necessarily sponsor, that's probably poor language, but to incentivize businesses that we want to be able to pay for the nice things like, arts and gradual park improvements and maintenance and all that. But I don't think it's bold thinking just to build facilities that are largely similar to neighboring cities that are a stone's throw away. That's not bold thinking. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have nice things in Bedford. I'm just saying, please don't tell me that this is bold and it's going to make things rosy when all we are, it's going to have a newer facility. That's great. That's a good thing. But it's not going to revitalize or reinvigorate the city. I find such claims incredibly dubious and without any data to back them up. I want to make sure that what we do lasts, is good for Bedford overall in the long run. And I understand that, it's only $10 more a month, but our citizens don't only pay taxes to us. They face an endless array of people, all with their hands out saying, just a little bit, just another little bit, just another little bit. And people are tired of that. Yes, we want to have value for our services. We would like good things, but we have to consider the long-term effects, and I think rushing this forward is imprudent at this time, given our financial situation. And if we don't get ahead of these macroeconomic trends that are biting us right now by having real bold thinking about the policies that we implement to attract and draw business, policies to invigorate new home building to replace older homes in our city. If we don't make those kind of improvements, I think that we're going to keep going to the same well. More tax, more tax, more tax. Real leadership is not, let's build something that everybody else has too, so we'll be like them. Real leadership is thinking outside the box to make us really stand out from other cities by innovating in how we do things. That's what I hope that we can achieve in this body moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Gebhardt. Councilman Sarter.
Thank you, Mayor, and my apologies for having arrived late. Sometimes work, the thing that pays my bills, took over, so my sincere apologies for that. Mark, I think you've been on the hot seat tonight. But I want to say I appreciate everything that you've done. And when I win the lottery, I'm going to hire you to do my outdoor kitchen for me. And it's going to be the greatest outdoor kitchen in the Metroplex, not just Bedford. So there's a thing you need to know. I don't play the lottery, so it's probably not going to happen.
Me neither.
But I do appreciate all that you've done. And I think in some ways, maybe we haven't been fair to you. So I'm going to have some comments. And nothing is meant personal towards you. I think you've done an awesome job, and I appreciate what you've done. And I may ramble, but this is where I'm at. We've talked about a timeline to have a draft of the final product ready with a flyover, a fly-in, the various aspects of what this project could look like. And we're talking about having that done by, I heard, September. So surely not by September 1st. Are we talking the end of September? Are we talking more finished product in October? What kind of timeline would we be looking at for that?
We understand the critical nature of the timeline, and that's why we went ahead and started. And our goal is to have it ready by the time we do that first meeting in September. Was that still the 7th that we're discussing? And actually, we'll be meeting with city staff to talk about that. So they already have the draft, Mr. Sarter. The final version is intended to be complete by September, the first week of September, into the first week after Labor Day.
And so this is a draft that's more of a final type of draft of what the facility is going to look like?
It is, we will have the plan up to date. We will have the floor plans and the elevations of the building up to date for that meeting. And we will have the video to show and by that meeting. And I think the video is going to create a lot of excitement. Mr. Bossart has a copy of the Gilbert video. I would encourage each of you to watch that to get a better picture, especially Mrs. Sable, Mr. Boyder, of what it's an emotive video. It's not just a crude architectural rendering and we're flying around and people are walking like this. It has video clips of real people doing real things, having real quality of life experiences in a community park like the Boys Ranch. And it's a little bit different, it's in a different location, but that is what we intend to produce for you so the voters can see it and understand it. So.
Councilman Sartor, just to interject, maybe I said this while you were not here yet, but the other thing that City Manager mentioned is we're going to have a work session on that date as well to start, looking at all that material and making sure we're happy with every piece part and trying to finalize that component so we can start marketing that and selling that. So.
I think some of my concern, Mayor, is that our timeline is so short. Are we going to overlook the little things that might make the good project a great project? In case in point, we brought up the fact about the tennis courts in our previous session. And it was a simple question of, is 7 the right number? Is 8 a better number? And based on that, you came back with a design that looks like is better than what I was thinking of, because we have some design that might be more productive for a tournament to come to our city by doing some things. So my concern is, how many of those things are we overlooking? Did we go on to the soccer associations and said, what is it that would make you come to Bedford? Have we been able to go to the tennis associations and said, what is it that we could do different that would make you say, we must have tournaments in Bedford because they have X that other people do not have? And I'm afraid that our timeline is so short that we may overlook those items and have a good project that I support, but maybe we missed the mark on having the great project if we delayed for a few months.
There's a couple of things. One is, it is a work in progress. I said that at the outset of the meeting, but when I got up and spoke. And we're moving fast, but we're moving diligently. And as a good idea pops up, and I mentioned speaking with the architect, there is a whole refinement of all of this that only comes when you really do the plans. I've already been talking to the planning director. I talked to Kenny today about meeting with them to go over any details. We've talked about the turn lane that would be added in the Harwood Road project, the right-of-way, the feasibility of getting utilities underground at the activity center. So I don't know how to say this the best way, but we've been working here so long, we know the staff so well, that's what's enabled us to go this fast so far. We know that, that we can get the information on the sanitary sewers that were improved, during phase 1. We know the phase 1 project. We have the current LIDAR topo of the project. We're aware of the Harwood Road project, and we did the traffic studies for Forest Ridge to look at how we could put that on a road diet and improve multimodal transportation. So we have I think a much greater awareness than a firm that was starting from scratch. We have a very good team to do this, and a lot of the details, the devil in the details, and those last little opportunities to take it from good to great are going to come in the actual final detailed design, and we have time to do that. But what we were trying to do is set an overall vision, an overall budget, so you could get your arms around it and let the voters decide if they want to support this. And we will work as fast as we can, and we'll show as much as we can to help get that image out so they can make a good decision. And so beyond that, we'll keep working on it and keep tweaking and improving and making it the best Boys Ranch it can be and as unique as it can be. But it's not, it can't all be done in a master plan at this point without getting into those real details down in the weeds as we've talked about.
And Mark, I don't want you again to think that we're picking on you. I think sometimes us from the dais are asking you questions and we're asking you to answer, and when we're asking our questions to the other members on the dais and maybe to our staff. And so you're answering a lot of questions, and I appreciate it.
No, that's why I'm here.
I just don't want you to think I'm picking on you, because I think you've done a great job. But let me ask this question just as a follow-up to that. If we were to wait until May, can we do a better job with this design than we are on the timeline that we're experiencing today? Will we have a better product waiting till May than we would have voting on this in November?
I don't think it makes a difference, and I'm being very truthful with you, because we didn't start from scratch. We started in 2010. We've had lots of public meetings in the past. Things have changed. We're aware of trends. There's always new ideas coming in, and we're going to bring the very best new ideas as we detail out this project should it move forward. But you can always take more time. You can always spin your wheels. McKinney spent 6 or 7 years trying to plan their activity center. I don't think they got a better project for it. It just got delayed and it cost more. And that's my honest opinion. So,
One of my questions was additional budget requirements. Councilman Border asked those questions, so I'm going to skip that one, but I just want to express that I do have some of those concerns is what impact would this have on our budget, moving forward, certainly since we're experiencing a pretty tight budget this year. I think we definitely must think about that. The design I'm looking at tonight, I believe, is the 5th layout that I've seen. If I take options A, B, C, and then the option that was presented the last council meeting, and then the option I'm looking at tonight is our 5th option. And where are these changes coming from? Is it coming from what we've set up here on the dais? Is it coming from public input? I'm typically seeing these changes when they're presented here and not being asked about them prior to seeing what you've done. And maybe I'm being selfish, and I don't mean to be, but when I get phone calls at home, and I'm beginning to experience many of those phone calls, I don't have answers to their questions.
we're working as fast as we can to get the answers, to incorporate ideas as we get them. To answer your first part, it's what you've told us. It's what we heard at the public meetings. It's what we've learned from staff. And we've been going from this level down to this level. And every time it comes back to you, you're going to see more detail and have more information as we move through that process. And so it's a work in progress, and most definitely the new multi-generational center is. But we have to start here, and then we have to go here. So the first three options were just where do we really put the new multi-generational center. We got what we thought we heard as a consensus, it should go on the corner. So those are done. We picked C, then we started refining C. We need to know a rough budget to work within. So if we find out we're only going to get 50, then we have to start cutting things out and changing the vision. So it doesn't make sense to go to that level of detail until we have parameters to work within. So.
And you have a quality firm. I'm going to praise you 10 more times before I get done, because I want you to know I believe in what you do. Has your firm designed a project of this size and scope on such a short timeline and seen it successful on a bond election?
The Dallas Aquatic Centers, we had over $30 million worth of aquatic center improvements, very highly charged political environment with meetings. Went through that last process in a very short time order. It wasn't a bond project, it was funded by a land sale, but that project, Mr. Sarter has gotten the support from council to put another $35 million or so into the $280 million park bond part of the Dallas bond election. So a little bit about my background. I spent the first 15 years doing parks and rec, trails, ball fields, tennis centers, you name it, campus master planning. Then I spent about 6 years, and part of overlapped into that first job, doing water park development with some of the major operators in the country, Sleater-Bond and Wet and Wild. We had to move in a very fast time frame to get things done. So we can move fast. We know how to move fast. We can slow down, and we can take years to do it. But we've really been at this for even in the very rudimentary beginnings back to 2002. So although it seems fast, it's been a long work in progress in a lot of ways. And that's the way the Dallas work was, and some work we're doing in Florida right now. So I'm confident we can create a good vision and do a great project for you for the bond election. It's just, you guys have to decide. I mean, it's not up to me to tell you what to do by any stretch of the imagination. I do feel like that quality of life initiatives, based on my experience, are the heart of the community, and we talked about that in 2010 with the Boys Ranch Park. And that's the heart of Bedford. The arts program are the heart of Bedford. We have transportation planners that put roads on road diets that create them more walkable, more rideable, and those are all good things, but they don't really add to the quality of life, going faster or slower on a road. So.
Let's talk about green space just for a moment. It was brought to my attention that Bedford would be a great place to have, I don't even know the proper term to call this, but people have their dogs and they do these agility tournaments or events or competitions. I'm not sure what you would call them.
It's like a dog park with an obstacle course in it.
Basically that, but they can set them up temporarily in some green space, and they bring in 400, 500, 600 people to these events, and they stay all day long. They eat at your restaurants. They visit your town. So it could be a great thing for our city. But in this concept, could we even do something like that?
Yes, you could. The practice soccer fields, we talked about athletic fields. We talked about doing another Hearst athletic complex, another soccer field complex. There's simply not space to do that in the Boys Ranch Park. It's really not feasible. What we do have is a very good special event open space area. If we do practice soccer fields, that can be used for kite flying. It can be used for spreading out at a concert at the amphitheater. It can be used to set up a special event like that, where you bring in, someone organizes an event, and it can be in the park in that open space that continues down from the amphitheater where the practice soccer fields are. So there is space and there is parking to support that.
Councilman Sable, Council Lady Sable, sorry, Amy, brought up the fact about the performing arts and the concept of doing something at the Old Bedford School. And I realize that the scope of what we've asked you to complete does not involve that. So this is a question, I believe, to the mayor and to Brian and my other council members up here on the dais. How do we present to the voters that we want to set aside, I'm just going to throw numbers, $5-7 million for the Old Bedford School, and we'll tell you what it is later. How do I present that to the voters?
Good luck.
And I don't mean it sarcastically. These are questions I'm getting asked, and I don't have an answer for that.
Well, okay, for me, it's fairly simple in the context of, we heard at 2 different town hall meetings, the continued concern about providing those services, those facilities, okay? So in my mind, if you're going to set aside X amount of dollars, you're creating a new facility that would allow for those services to be performed, to be held, to be, to take place. So do we have a design? No, we don't have a design, but we're not ready to do that either. I mean, I think the first step is to do what's going to take place at the Boys Ranch Park, all those, the fields, all the things that we're talking about in relationship to those components. And then once that's done, you move, or you could do it simultaneously, but you're still going to need a plan. We're going to go through the same process we've done here and get to the same point where we're marketing and selling and telling this is what it is, get the feedback, get the input, and say this is what you want, and we go there. I mean, it's a process. You don't start with, I can't see any way that we would start with, we're going to do this, and this is a picture of exactly what we're going to do. We're going to set it there, and we're going to get all kinds of feedback saying, well, that's not what I want. That's not going to work. That's not going to meet our needs. We can't do this. We can't do that. So what we do is we say we want to do facilities to house those services, and we're going to work on the design, and we're going to bring it to you and get your feedback, and then we're going to come to the final product, just like we're doing with this process, and then we build it, if that's what everybody wants.
But I think my concern, Mayor, is though, but I'm asking the voters to approve it now.
You're asking them to approve the funding to support
The funding to
those
support
services,
a
yes.
future project that I can't show them now. And I'm having that concern brought to me. And I don't have a good answer for them. You and I had the privilege of watching Meg's daughter Friday night in a play. It was fun and enjoyed our time together. But I kept thinking during that time, that would be a great thing for Bedford, to house something like that. And
I mean, for example, OnStage has already provided us with their vision of what it should look like.
correct.
So do we put that out there and say that's what it is? I mean, again, from my point of view, it's like you have to work through the process of creating what what we want to do and get the feedback from the public as to what it should be, the people that are going to be using it and utilizing it.
And I am 100% on board. I want to see us do those things. My concern, because my phone's been ringing off the wall, and I had a conversation with a couple tonight on the way from work that I highly respect. And they kept saying, "You're moving too fast." We may miss an opportunity to have a good project turn into a great project. Everybody I have talked to overwhelmingly has supported this project. I have not had a single person say, "Don't do it." That I've not had. Everybody is 100% behind this project. But what I am having is the vast majority of them saying, "Give me some more details. I don't think your timeline is long enough. You're working too fast." They don't have a problem with the design firm. They don't have a problem with the concept of what we're doing. They think we're moving too fast, and I can't tell them what's going to happen at Old Bedford School, but give me the money. And I struggle with that. And
Well, I guess
this may be the first time that I've been on council that I've really, really lost some sleep over something, struggling with to make the right decision. This is a very difficult decision for me at this time. But,
Well, I mean, the only other comment I can add to help you or not help you is that, you know, I don't know how much more detail, because everybody's going to have a different perspective of how much detail they want to have. You know, this happens all the time at church. Every time we try to do something at church, it's always like, well, I want to be the person that tells you exactly what color carpet we're going to have and what color we're going to put on the pews and all those kinds of things. And then we have other people that says, no, I just want new pews. You know, I don't care what color you paint the wall, those kind of things. So I don't know how much detail everybody's asking, but that's what we've been talking about here all night, is that we're going to, from this point forward, if we approve this language and ask the voters to partner with us to do this, we're going to be educating and providing all the detail we possibly can with Mark and his team's help to see what it's going to look like before they go to the polls on November the 7th. Short of that, I don't know what other detail we would be adding to that process. And I'll say one more thing, if you don't mind.
sure.
You know, we've talked about the master plan for the park. So I remember working on the master plan the first time through when I was just on the Parks Board. We've continued to work on the master plan for 10 plus years. And every time we tweak it a little bit, and we say, well, no, we need this, we had some more input, this is the new trend now, we want to add this. So we kept tweaking the master plan in the 4 phases. Okay, here we are at 2017. We've done phase 1, which was the lake and the pavilion, those things. So to keep delaying it, to me, doesn't get us any better product, because we've delayed the master plan for over 10 years to try to say we want to get the right thing we want on the park, and now here we're at this point. So I guess from my perspective, we have an opportunity here, and again, it's not us deciding. We're not saying we're going to spend this money without anybody's input. We're asking for the community's input. But at the same time, it still is our responsibility to educate them with Mark and the consultants' help and the staff's help to what is this going to look like. But, you know, short of telling what color the walls are, you know, I don't know what else detail we have to put in there. But
I don't think I'm looking for the colors of the wall or the design of the carpet and things like that. I think that the concern that's been coming to me is, are we going to have indoor aquatics within that multi-generational facility on the thing?
And I thought we
at
said
one
yes to
point,
that.
we were going to have indoor and outdoor on that corner, and then it changed to indoor on that corner and then outdoor in the vicinity of where Splash is located today, with a complete renovation of Splash. Sounds to me like maybe, Mark, the design for Splash is to scrape it and start over. Is that basically correct? Are we using some of the existing facility?
We offered up 2 options for discussion. One was renovating it and spending about $5 million, and redoing it and spending $9 million. It would work better, it would last longer if we totally redo it. And so the last direction we had from you guys as of the last meeting is to go for the plan as it was presented and redo it. So at that time, we gave you a new layout of what Splash might look like with the new entrance, better oriented to the parking and all of that. So we're we have to, we're biting off pieces, we're taking steps. I mean, I think I've said it over and over again, but I think the intent of this is pretty clear. There will be money for the arts. There will be all these new things. As we refine them and see opportunities, we're refining. We're going to create this visualization. We're going to have a plan of the activity center. So there'll be a lot of information out to make a decision about. We'll work through the financials with you guys and staff and the pricing and the staffing. And then when we start the construction documents, we will look at it again. And there will be another chance. That's why last time I told you it would take about 3 years, 2 to 3 years to do the multi-generational facility. It'll take a couple of years to design and finalize the design and bid and build the outdoor facilities on the first half and on the last half. So it's a process. I think we've got plenty of opportunity to make it great, to get more public input. And we can delay. We can always delay. One of the outfalls of the delay, or consequences of the delay on the first phases, is that costs have almost doubled since we first projected the cost of those phases. And so if there's a clock or a time bond ticking, that's one of them. It's never going to get any cheaper to do. If we have a downturn, then you won't do it because we're in a downturn. So it's tough. I realize it's a very hard decision for you and the public, but I don't see any upside of waiting or delaying. I really don't. And I've been at this a long time. So.
In a previous council meeting some months ago, we voted to put various monument signs around our park. Is that incorporated anywhere into this plan?
I talked to Kenny today about the monument signs. There's 2 of them, or 3 of them, that were slated for the Boys Ranch. He's put that on hold. They're funded because we want to make sure they go in the right place with the new development plans as they're done for the park.
So do you see these monument signs aesthetically fitting into this design
Yes.
of what we would do?
Yes. Yes.
And, but do you see the location of those changing from maybe where we had them prior?
I haven't seen the current location, but talking to Kenny, they probably would change because of the new plan, and that's why he's put it on hold at the moment. And man, I just learned that this afternoon, Mr. Sarter.
And I think that's one of those things we had to get it done, and I was somewhat against the location of a few of those, and we went ahead and voted on it, and it didn't turn out to be the best thing that we did, because we also knew that this project was coming up, and therefore we allocated monies that, because we were in a hurry, that wasn't the right type of money to allocate at that time. I support the monument signs, but I think our timing on that was too quick. Now we're having to wait and do the right thing and locate them in the right places. I just wanted to make a point on that. Brian, this may be a question for you. What's the last date we can withdraw this from the bond election? Is that tonight, or is that some point next week?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Sarter, your deadline for placing it on the ballot is next Monday, August 21st. So your question is, when can we, is your question meaning if you approved it tonight, can you pull it back? Is that what you mean by your question?
Not necessarily. If we, I was looking for that deadline. So if the deadline is tonight because we have a quorum and we're voting tonight, is this our last night to say yay or nay on this project?
I think that's a council decision. You could certainly schedule a special meeting if you wanted to do this next Monday night, which would be the absolute last night that you could make and reach such a decision, if you wanted to forward it to the voters for the election. But ultimately, that's council's decision.
Mark, question for you. One more question for you, Mark. If we were to delay till May, how does that change our contract with you?
We would probably need to get an extension on the contract. We've been working fast and furious. We've spent a lot of hours. They spent a lot of extra hours, and willingly, because this is important to us too. It's something we've been involved in a long time. So if we extend the process, we've already, I think Brian and Eric could verify this, we've already done more meetings than we originally had in the contract, and gladly and willingly so. We're going to do whatever meetings we need and can do in September. So we would need to get an extension and expand the contract to do more meetings and more process beyond that point.
Is there a, boy, I'm going to put you on the spot. Is that a six-figure number? Is that a five-figure number? Is that?
I don't know, not knowing the scope, but if, let's say if a man day is, 1,500 or 2,000 a day, and we have another, 30 days of man days of work, then you can start putting numbers to it. I think, quite honestly, one thing we talked about, and I'll just say it, that if you wait to the May election, there's liable to be several other bond elections and coming out, and you're going to be competing with those elections, for the votes. And, you may want to do that, you may not want to do that. Once again, that's totally your decision, but we have good momentum. I think we have excellent public support, better than I expected, honestly, knowing Bedford. I've been working in Bedford a long time. We've got momentum. When you see the video, you're going to see even more of the vision. So it's totally up to you guys what we do. I mean, we can't tell you that, and it's totally up to the voters. But we've been delayed for about 6 years from when the first master plan was proposed, and costs have gone up, and it's cost us twice as much for some of those facilities.
And I wish we had diligently been working on this plan during those last 6 years and not just the last 6 months.
Well,
and that's not your fault.
Yeah.
That's our fault.
Yes, sir.
And there's nothing reflecting
I
on
hear
you
that.
at all. If we had been working on this for the previous year, I don't think we'd be having this discussion tonight.
Okay.
That's all I have for the moment. I may have other comments before we're done.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Starr. Just a quick question. So one of the comments you made earlier was that you've not received a single negative comment about the project in and of itself.
In the phone calls that I've received, maybe I left that part out. In the phone calls that I have received to my home, I've not had negative comments as far as don't do the project.
All right, so I guess I was going
Yeah.
to just ask a
I
question.
may have misled you on that one. so.
No, okay, no,
Okay.
but again, what my question was going to be more in line with the fact that, if we're committed to educating and informing and providing all the detail that we possibly can, short of a actual construction document between now and November 7th, but those people that have contacted you that have positive comments to say about it, I mean, that's only going to strengthen their belief in what we're doing, right?
If we can provide, they're not asking for the color of the carpet.
Well, but
the
he
color
said
of the
floor
walls.
plan, he's got a floor plan, bringing all that
plans,
stuff to
various
us.
things
He's
like
bringing
that.
all that to us on the 7th.
That will, if the timeline is quick enough, help
Well, today's the
to sell that project.
15th or 16th or whatever today is, so the
Correct.
7th is pretty quick to get all that to us. So I'm just trying to walk through this in my mind that I don't know what we buy delaying, but I mean, I'm thinking if we get going, we can provide the information to bolster those folks who believe that's a great project, for sure. And anybody that may be on the fence, we'll give them information to say one way or the other how they feel, I would think.
Okay.
All right, Councilman Boyd.
Thank you, Mayor. Hey, Mark.
Round two.
What? I re-got my breath, so. What are you working on other than Bedford right now?
What am I working on other than Bedford right now?
Bond projects?
Bond projects. We've been supporting the city of Dallas with questions as they come up from council and the park board as they decided what to put into the November bond election. We're done with that. Okay, so we have we've got construction phases going on several park projects. We've got and I've got folks that are doing that. I'd say that 80% of my time for the last couple of months
Has been dealing with Bedford.
and that's 80% of my time going to November because it takes
Okay.
that. It's worth that. And so, yes.
So, okay. All right, not what I was expecting you to say. So you're working with City of Dallas, you've got some other projects going. In the projects that you're working on right now, do you have more detail than you will have in this bond proposal right here in those projects, or are you working the same scenario where you're giving concepts and you're dialing in the concepts?
That's exactly the
Or
same.
are you dialing it down to the penny?
That's the same process we went through in Dallas with a large number of aquatic facilities. I mean,
Okay.
we started very broad, we refined, then we got into the construction documents, worked out the last details with staff, had some additional public meetings.
Okay.
And they've been bid and they're starting construction this
Okay.
month. I've just, in all transparency, tomorrow I'm flying to Florida to have a meeting on
To
a,
get as far away from Bedford as you can.
no, it's a day trip, no
Okay,
spending the
all right.
night even, so it'll be a long
Okay.
day. But I'm going down to present 50% plans on a project there for the city of Northport. You know, we've got some other planning exercises going on in Sunrise, Florida.
And you're going to present precise, detailed plans down to the penny.
In the construction document phase,
Okay.
yes, in the construction document.
So let me ask you this. Okay, let's talk City of Arlington. Are you familiar with the ballpark in Arlington, the new ballpark? Are you familiar with AT&T Stadium, all that kind of stuff?
Yes, I live very near there. And
Okay,
I
what
voted
kind
on
of
both
detail?
them.
Okay, let's talk about the ballpark. What kind of detail did they give us when did they give the residents of Arlington when they went to a bond for that?
Not a high level of detail. I mean, a vision.
What does that
vision,
mean?
you know, of what the facility would be like with.
Did they
what
dial
would
it down to how many seats are going to be in the park and?
I couldn't answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was not in those meetings, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
A couple points here. A friend of mine on council was talking earlier about parks don't necessarily contribute to future residents. 2014 citizen survey said that the residents that were surveyed said quality of life was most important to 93.2% of them. Of quality of life, parks was most important to 80.5%. So parks is very important to people, and it's very important to future residents. With respect to taxes, I hate to say it because I'm not a tax and spend guy. However, let's talk about Harwood Road. Harwood Road is going to cost $35 million for us to repair. 6 miles, linear miles. Right now, we have a budget where tax revenue, a half cent is dedicated to our 4B fund, which we collect about $2.5 million a year. We have a $35 million project for Harwood Road. It's going to take us quite a while to wait for those funds to collect for us to pay for that. We have to issue bonds. We have no choice. And us being in this is not apples to apples, but I'm using this as the forum to do it. It's like buying a house. We have to invest in the future. We have to put that house on a note because we don't have the funds to pay for it today. We do not have $35 million to pay for Harwood, so we need help. We got to go to NCT COG. We're going to have to go to other sources. We're going to have to issue some bonds on that thing because we don't have the revenue right now to do it. I think I'm turning liberal in front of everyone's eyes, and I'm going to admit it right now. We cannot have a city that tries to have the lowest rate on taxes. And here's why. Drive down Harwood Road, drive down Bedford Road. When you drive down Harwood Road, look at our inability to put in financial and economic incentives to lure better businesses into those facilities. Part of that's creativity as well. But then also look at, I am concerned because I do not want to leave behind a legacy where and I'm sorry, I'm going to get castrated for this. I do not want to become Richland Hills and Haltom City, which had a lack of foresight and a lack of ability to generate a tax base to create a forward-thinking model to make those towns great. And what should be great about our town is the people. And what we need to do is draw the type of people who want to invest in this community, and they're going to need resources, they're going to need facilities, and they're going to need to have a certain standard of living and quality of life to feel comfortable about moving here. Otherwise, the only reason we have to bring people here is we're geographically in a great spot. But that geography has also dictated itself to, we can now see that our standards are going down, in that the average median income that used to have in Bedford is now substandard to the people that are around us. And when I grew up, that wasn't the case. And I attribute that directly to decisions that we have made as a legislative body not to invest in making our community better. So bringing it back to apples. If we want to talk about bold decisions, it means doing things that may not necessarily be the most prudent thing, but it may be the thing to invest in the future of our town. And the future of our town means we need to sometimes take risks, and we need to challenge ourselves to think bigger. And that's the decision that we have here tonight. And I can't believe we are in the situation that we are, because it just devastates me to know that we've had so many missed opportunities over the last 20 years to really make Bedford an example for other communities, and we've chosen not to take it. So our challenge for the next couple of years is, let's think bigger, let's think creative, let's think about how we can turn this around. And while at the same time finding ways to creatively go get those businesses to draw them into town, to creatively find ways to support, the great things that we already have here. And the Boys Ranch is vitally important. We have got to get this right. And that means we have got to have everything possible to sell this to people so that they understand exactly what they're getting, so that they feel like it's something that they can be proud of, that they're proud of bringing in their friends and their families to, hey, let's go to the gym. This gym is way better than going to Fitness Nation down the road. I'm the one that brought up the fact that you can take $70 million, you can take every resident in the city of Bedford, you can pay for their gym membership for 156 months with $70 million. Every resident in the city of Bedford. But that doesn't necessarily equate itself to making our town great. And we have to challenge ourselves to look ahead towards the future, but we also have to be economically prudent. I believe Mr. Bossart agrees with that. And we've got to do this under some sort of a conceptualized model that we can afford this going forward. So we absolutely need everything you can bring to the table for us to help us promote this thing and get people feeling good about this. Because right now they just don't feel good. They don't feel like they know what it is we're doing. But at the end of the day, am I wrong here? We're approving a motion to allow the residents to decide. We are not deciding to issue the bond. Correct? Am I correct on that?
That's correct.
Residents.
I'm playing stupid because usually I am kind of stupid. But what we're doing today is we want the voters to tell us what they want to do. I don't know where you can go wrong with saying, you know what, I want the voters to tell me what to do. I mean, am I wrong in that assumption?
They're going to tell us. They're going to tell us.
All right.
Is it?
Is that enough for you?
I get.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Boyder. Councilman Gebhardt.
Apologies, I'll try to make this quick. I don't know which Michael Boyder I'm talking to anymore. It's blowing hot and cold in here. Nobody, and myself certainly, is not suggesting that we cut our tax rate to bare bones. That's, if you listen to my grand and wild ideas, it wasn't that we reduce our tax collections to a bare minimum so we can squeak by. I'm just encouraging us to think outside the box about what can really be bold thinking, not just having a new park or not whatever. The referenced survey, that was good. It's very unscientific. It's a self-selected survey. It represents less than 1% of the citizens of Bedford, well under the margin of error. It's simply unwise to cast large decision-making on such an unscientific instrument. So I wouldn't point to that with any degree of confidence. And as far as letting the voters decide, it's true they will decide if this goes forward. But as I believe this represents imprudent policy, I will vote against it.
Thank you, Councilman Gebhardt. All right, anyone else? Any other comments? Anyone else? Any other comments? All right, so again, thank you, council, for your input. Thank you, Mark, for enduring all that. And thank you for the thank you for the updates and the modifications you've made to the drawing. All right, so council, we have our task is, if we want to, is to approve this language, and that's what will go on the ballot on November 7th. We've had considerable amount of discussion about the fact of what the process is from this point forward to November to utilizing the all the tools and assets of Kimley Horn and Mark to provide us with materials and information and various tools to educate and inform, and down to the floor plan and the look of the building and all of those kinds of things that's going into what we're doing here. Does it provide 100% of the detail? No. Does it provide detail? I believe it does. I still, as I said earlier, it's still our responsibility and staff's responsibility to market, to sell, to educate, to inform, whatever words you want to use, about what this is going to look like and be and do. And then leave it with the voters to decide. I know Councilman Gebhardt said he's not in favor of even putting this on the ballot. So, and that's his right, and that's his opinion. But I think we all have recognized, and Councilman Boyer had said this a couple times tonight, about how we really need to start thinking about our future as a city and where we're going, what we're doing. And I wholeheartedly support the idea that parks and libraries and all of those services are vital to how well our community moves forward, how well our community grows for the future. So I'm definitely in favor of doing this. I think we can educate and promote and sell and inform the public as to exactly what this looks like. Will we answer everybody's question? I can't answer that, but I think we'll provide a wealth of information with staff's help and with Kimley Horn's help to do that. So I think putting it on the ballot is what we should be doing. The question was asked, I think, Councilman Sarter, about how much, do we have any more time? Well, we could do this by next Monday, but I don't know what between today and Monday is going to benefit us in terms of this discussion. We're not going to have any more detail than we have tonight that we're going to have on Monday, so I don't see any value in that piece. But so that's where we're at tonight. So I need someone to make a motion. Oh, you have a comment? Yes, sir. Councilman Sarter.
Mayor, it sounds as though Mark and your team can provide us with a flyover, a fly-in of everything of the Boys Ranch, based on some conceptual design that we see on the board today. Knowing full well that any project of this scope, before it's complete, will have changes. If you build your home, you're going to make changes from the time that you first envision the home until you get it changed. A project of this scope would be no different. What about the old Bedford school piece?
Trust him.
Will we have anything on that before the November election? And that's not in the scope of what we've asked you to do, Mark. I get that.
It's not, but we heard loud and clear Old Bedford School. We heard loud and clear arts. So we got Don to find the old plans of the Bedford School and the remodel. We've given those to our architect. He's looking at it. We haven't developed anything yet for it. We're going to look at the site. We're going to look at the school building to see if we think that is a feasible site. We don't have the answer on that yet, but we have started, even though it's not in our actual scope. There's a lot bigger issue at stake here, and it's a lot bigger project, and we do care about that site as well. And so we're going to take a look at that and bring you back a report on the Old Bedford School. So.
Okay. I did not know that, so yeah. Thank you.
Well, we just started this week. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Sarter. Councilwoman Sable.
You know, I want this. I do, and I think you're perfect to design it. But to me, it's because it's like buying a house and giving them all your money, and we don't have a floor plan, and we don't have what the house is going to look like or anything. As a council, we don't know what the buildings are going to look like. Now, if we could get there, see, what bothers me, I think, is the date of November 7th. I just think intellectually, and I just would feel better if we had at least until May of next year. And I realize that our costs will go up. That's always something that we have to consider. But I don't see, like Rusty said, we have no idea what's going to happen to the old Bedford School or the event center. And I was with the Cultural Commission last night, and they suspect that. They suspect that they will be left out. And personally, I would just rather see us wait till May, and that's where I am.
Sorry. Any other comments?
Move ahead.
All right. All right, so I'll entertain a motion. Michael's not here. Okay, we have a motion. Mr. Wells, we have a motion from a council member, Boyder, I think. Did you see that? Okay, you got that? I wanted to wait till you got back.
I'm not controlling the system.
Oh, shit. Oh, sorry. Well, thank you, dear. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution ordering a bond election to be held for issuance of $70 million general obligation bonds for constructing, improving, renovating, and yada, yada, yada. So we have it. So everyone please vote. Somebody didn't vote. You got to reset. Or you just want to hold your hand up one way or the other? So did you raise your hand? Are you waiting for your screen to come back? What do you want to do? Okay, all right. Did you get it back? All right. I like that even better.
No, I can't imagine that is possible.
Thank you, council, for your...
I don't know which Dave Gephardt we're seeing here.
It is the Twilight Zone. Oh my God.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dave, for getting on board.
Yeah. It would have to be a sign.
Dang Russian hacker.
You want a second again?
I'll go on record voting no. Everybody listening? From my fellow council?
That's not what it said on the screen, David.
Turn your mic on if you're going to talk. Did your screen come back, Rusty? Or?
Nobody got nothing. How much do we pay for this again? And we're paid over here?
Yeah, but it was designed by Sabre.
No, it was not.
Well, former Sabre.
I learned how to do that.
Where's the paddle? We need the paddle with the snow on it for Mr. Sarter.
This is a hard decision, and I sure don't like being the one that's going to cast it one way or the other. That's not the ultimate place you want to be in. Dave would be happy to do that, he says. Yeah. Ultimately, it is the voters' decision to approve or disapprove this project. I get that. I do think we are at risk up against some other bond elections coming up in May. I think that we're exposed. I do think that we will be facing a greater increase in cost to delay. On the other hand, I think I'm concerned about the old Bedford school piece. To vote yes, I would say that the only way I'm leaning more towards yes, only because I think, Mark, you've told me you can have the materials necessary to show this to the public. If those items are not presented, I think I would actively go out and say, don't go vote for this thing because it's not what is in the best interest of the city because we didn't have time to plan it right. I wish we had another month to plan. We don't. I wish we had started this project earlier. We didn't. I think we made some mistakes bringing this up in the timeline that we've brought it up. The concerns that have been presented to me by the voters that have contacted me directly, and in some cases indirectly, have been, I want to know what I'm voting for. I don't want to vote for a box on a corner. And you said tonight that you can have that to us with some of our input. Mayor, you've told me that we will have a work session, is that correct? That we will discuss in detail some of the ideas and that we can put them into this plan.
Yes, sir.
And we will have that to show to the voters.
That's the plan.
In a timeline that the voter has a chance to digest what we have shown them and not have to make that decision 4 days before election.
I would say yes, sir. I mean, again, it's going to be a function of how we come together. I mean, we can do multiple days. We can, whatever we need, but we can staff. It's up to staff and us, our availability. But yeah,
How much council input would we be able to have on that? I mean, but I've had a lot of council input on some of these items. I mean,
What are you going to give me? Sweet and pop.
No, I'm not asking for that, Dave. I'm just, I think it's important that council's kept up to date on the changes that have happened. So I'm gonna vote yes, only because you've promised me that we can have these items to show. I'm going to have made some enemies. I understand that. And, but I just, that's my vote. I'm voting my conscience at the moment, and if I've made a mistake, I've made a mistake, but that's where I'm at the moment.
Thank you, Councilman Sarter. So are we going to put the screen back up, or am I just going to say there was 3, 2, 4?
We get like 3 months every time it goes down like this.
No, but Sabre lets the 100 guys go every time.
All right, so we're working out the technical difficulties. It looks like it, based on the last electronic vote and then Mr. Sarter adding his, it was 3-2 in favor of putting this language on the November 7th ballot.